I hate it when I can't see everybody who's here. Let's see, Melissa, Ron, Claudia, Nick, okay. All right, well, good morning, everyone. And it kind of gave me a little jolt when I saw online yesterday that this was the last meeting of the College Council. And then you had to finish the sentence before it said for this year. So don't be upset, we're not going anywhere. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So welcome to the last College Council meeting for this academic year, because we will be meeting in September and it still will be 2021. So having said that, we're going to move along in the agenda. And the first item is the approval of the minutes. Everyone received the minutes of our previous meeting in your packet that Diane Marie sent out earlier in the week. So is there a motion regarding, there's Rich, now we do have a quorum.
Go ahead and move the minutes.
Okay,
Second.
okay, made and seconded by Harold and Rich. The motion is on the floor to approve the minutes as submitted. Is there any discussion, additions, subtractions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the minutes as presented, please vote yes. Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motions are adopted as submitted. Thank you. Now, the chair's report. I'm very glad to see everybody here. And I am hoping that by the beginning of the next academic year, we might actually be able to see each other and bump elbows, if not shake hands. It's been an interesting year, shall we say. There have been lots of things happening worldwide, countrywide, statewide, campus-wide. And I would like to thank everybody for the parts that you have played in making this as normal as possible and as safe as possible. And that includes all of the students who are doing their part to make things be able to continue in the best possible way. I'm going to take a moment and introduce to you, we recently had the Student Government Association elections, and Kara Rasmussen, who had stepped in after the previous president had to resign. And now they've had a new election. And so we have a new SGA president-elect. He hasn't been officially sworn in yet, but I will warn him that once you're sworn in, you may be sworn at. So enjoy your honeymoon period. Nick, can you say hello? His name is Nick Hausman. And
Hi,
he's
everybody.
from Pennsylvania. And he's a Crane major. And nobody, including me, who's been on the council forever, can remember having an SGA president from Crane. Just say hi, Nick. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm a music performance major concentrating in voice and violin. I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I'm a current sophomore.
Wow. Wow. Probably one of the youngest SGA presidents. It's not very often we get a sophomore. So we want to welcome you to the council. And you can reach out to us at any time. So thank you for stepping up and congratulations on getting elected.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Okay, so now I really am not going to take a lot of time to do a chair's report because there's not a lot that other people aren't covering. I just want to say two more things. One is I want to thank Rich Daddario for sitting in on the open forums for our enrollment management person. So really appreciate you doing that, Rich. And I want to congratulate Sal Kania and the search team. You guys did a great job, even though you had to do things virtually that are normally done in person. So thank you all for that. And I also want to give out a shout out and encouragement to Dr. Claudia Ford, who, as you know, is our interim diversity, equity, and inclusion person. And she's been doing a fabulous job. And I just want to say that I did attend one session of the Days of Reflection. The other, I think it was Wednesday night. I don't know. I don't know what day it is anymore. It was great. And the person who presented, Letitia Fussell, happened to be a former student of my daughter who teaches there at the college. So it was very interesting. It was on the N word. And it was very well done, very interesting. And as you always hope, I actually learned a few things. So I want to encourage the other council members to take a look at the schedules. The local Festival of the Arts is coming up. There's lots of stuff going on in Crane. And I want to urge you to take advantage of it, even though we're Zooming right now. So that's going to be it for my chair's report. You're going to hear a lot of information, a lot of important things that are coming up on the agenda. So I will now turn the meeting over to President Esterberg for the president's report.
Thank you so much, June. And I will say, I will acknowledge first off, this has been a very difficult semester and a very difficult couple of weeks for the campus. I think you all know or have heard about the concerns that students have been expressing around sexual harassment and sexual violence. And so we'll be talking a little bit later about some of the work that Dr. Ford is leading as a response. So I don't want to talk a lot about that now, but I do want to acknowledge that I am so proud of our students for their advocacy. I believe deeply that students, that it's part of a student's developmental work at college to learn how to express their concerns and how to advocate for change. So I'm very grateful to the students for their advocacy and for their faith that we will in fact do a better job of serving them. I also want to note that this is a very difficult time for all of our students of color and our faculty and staff of color as the trial of Derek Chauvin rests and as concluding arguments are made next week. We are keenly aware that for our students of color and our faculty and staff of color, that these next few weeks will continue to be a very, very challenging time for our campus. And I want to express great appreciation not only for Dr. Ford, but for Mr. Clifton Harcum, who is the director of the Center for Diversity, who has created a variety of supports for the campus community. So as we go through the next few weeks, I think we will continue to see challenges on our campus, but we are so committed to working to support our students better, to support our community better, and to do what we need to do in order to ensure that every student who comes to SUNY Potsdam is treated with dignity and respect and has the support they need. So we'll be talking a little bit more in this meeting about some of the concrete action steps, but I wanted you to know how proud I am of our students for advocating for their needs. I also want to express a little sadness that this would normally be the meeting at which we would celebrate our students. So Nick, this would be we would be having a really lovely breakfast and celebrating the accomplishments of Kara Ramsaran, our outgoing SGA president, and Nick, our incoming SGA president. It would be also the time where you get an opportunity to meet some of our extraordinary students who are receiving Chancellor's Awards. We've got amazing students on our campus, and I'm sorry that you can't be with them in person, and look forward to having that next year. There are a couple of other transitions that I want to talk about. June, you mentioned the VP for Enrollment Management Search. Patrick Quinn will be joining us in the middle of May as our new VP for Enrollment Management. And so this is Ron Brown's last meeting with College Council. So I want to say thank you, Ron, for all you've been doing. And I think this has probably been the most difficult enrollment season in your history. So I want to thank you for all you've tried to do to keep us moving forward and to keep students thinking about Potsdam and applying to Potsdam in what has been one of the most challenging enrollment environments I can imagine. So thank you, Ron. And then finally, I want to talk about some exciting news around a collaboration that we are engaging in with SUNY Plattsburgh. Some of you may already know that I have been talking regularly with my counterpart at SUNY Plattsburgh, President Alex Agnetti. Keith Kaplan, our interim VP for Business Affairs, has been in deep conversation with his counterpart at Plattsburgh, Josie LaRochelle. And the four of us have been working very closely with SUNY and the Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance, Eileen McLaughlin, to try and understand how we can collaborate more closely and begin to think about joining some of our back of the house functions together so that we can be more efficient and we can reduce how much we're spending on our back of the house functions. And what we are moving towards over the next 2 months is a regional financial services office that will serve our two campuses. This is especially exciting for Potsdam because, as you know, may or may not know, we've been very, very thinly staffed in those areas for some time. And this collaboration will give us greater bench strength and greater ability to, for example, have key staff take a vacation without wondering what's in their workflow in Potsdam. So we'll be moving towards a collaboration on e-procurement, payment services, strategic financial management, budgeting, financial reporting, and internal controls. And I'm very excited that this is going to allow us to be to put in place some of SUNY's best practices around especially financial reporting and internal controls. So over the next 2 months, we'll be transitioning from having one chief financial officer at each campus as we integrate these functions. And Josie LaRochelle, SUNY Plattsburgh's VP for A&F, will serve as our regional chief financial officer. Keith Kaplan, who has served as our extraordinary, amazing, and wonderful interim VP for Business Affairs, will be returning to the Research Foundation Central Office in Albany. So I want to, first of all, say thank you to Keith for his extraordinary efforts. I am just so grateful for all the work that you've done to move us forward and how well you've set us up for this collaboration. I am really excited about the work that we're engaging in with Plattsburgh. And I think Keith has done an extraordinary job positioning us well for this. So we are going to, this will be a pilot from now until the end of the calendar year, and we'll be evaluating it regularly. The first, at first, Josie will be joining Keith, and for the next 2 months, we'll be, bit by bit, socializing Josie to our campus. And then at the end of June, we will be missing Keith greatly. But Keith, the work that you've done here is just extraordinary. And so I want to thank you for that. And thank you for really positioning us well for what's next. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that I can about this or any other piece of news that's going on campus.
Any questions, comments?
I have a quick comment, June.
Okay, Alex.
I just wanted to thank Kristen for coming by the vaccination site this past week. She took another tour. Only a few things have kind of changed over there, but she was able to see that. She stayed for our command staff meeting that we have at 11 o'clock every day. And it really helped bring up the spirits of the folks that are there every day to see a familiar face, but a face we hadn't seen in a little bit. So thank you for coming by. And we have open appointments every day. So if you have anyone that needs to be vaccinated, any groups of people, let us know, send them over. We're doing same day appointments now. And Kristen, thank you as well for also reaching out to your contacts at the other colleges in the North Country to help us reach that mission as well. So just wanted to thank her for that.
Great. Well, thank you, Alex. And I think it's in all of our interest to make sure that every single person in our region and in our state gets that vaccination. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to reach out to all of our alumni and have them come back to campus and get a vaccination shot as they come back to our region. So thank you, and thank you for all the work you've been doing. It's an extraordinary effort.
Now I forgot what I was going to say. Well, the president covered a couple of things I forgot to say. So now Nick, we owe you a breakfast. Yeah, the council members, when you're out and about, as I know you are, please push people coming to get their vaccination at Potsdam. You don't have to wait 3 months anymore. And, Alex said we can do same day, but I assume you're not encouraging everybody to walk in.
At this point, yeah.
Okay.
mean, we have a lot of vaccine and appointments that are not being filled on a daily basis. So we're going to start putting on the signs, if someone's driving by and they want to stop in, come on in. It's not too hard to sign someone up and get them registered. So we're happy to for them.
So asking on behalf of Jeff Cole, is that something that needs to go out on television?
I would refer to the governor's representative, Mr. Seth Belt, for that one.
Okay, all right. So you can check with Seth, Jeff.
All right.
All right, because hate to see vaccine go to waste. All right.
Nothing's being wasted. I will say that. Nothing's being thrown
Right.
away. Nothing's being wasted.
Right.
But we have a number of appointments we can do on a daily basis, and we aren't reaching that goal currently. We're only filling about 3/4 of those appointments. So.
Okay. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Keep getting shots in arms. That's what it's about. Okay. I just saw in the chat that Kara is not able to join us today, but Nick is prepared to give the SGA report when we get to that point in the agenda. Nick, do you have a copy of the agenda?
I do, yes.
Okay, all right. Didn't want you to be surprised. All right, so now that we have a quorum, we are going to move along in the agenda to the 2 resolutions that require votes by the council. So I will, for the first resolution on the traffic and parking regulations, Eric Dersher is here and he's going to tell us about this, the need for it, what it does. And then we will be voting on the resolution. Eric?
Thanks, June, and good morning, everybody. This is actually the second time you all have seen these regulations in this motion. In terms of process, we present this to College Council as we have in the past. You endorsed us putting it forward through SUNY and posting for public comment. And then once that period of public comment is done, which we receive no public comment, it comes back to College Council for official approval and ratification. On page 10 in the meeting materials are the changes to the vehicle and parking regulations. There are underlined sections in each part that indicate what's different. The main change is in the section at the top of page 10 of the meeting minutes, which amends the vehicle and parking registrations to include essentially free parking for our veterans and military service for both students and employees. And that's the main change to the document. We did also add in subsequent pages, lot 30A, which was the new parking lot created next to Maxey Hall, which we were using largely for our big events there, which has come in tremendously handy, as Alex knows, with additional parking with the vaccine pod that's over there. So be happy to entertain any questions about the changes if anybody has any.
Any questions?
Move the motion.
Second.
Okay. We had the usual people moving and seconding, Rich and Harold. Is there any discussion? Everybody has the resolution and the annotated regulations in front of them. Questions, discussion?
This just reminds me that parking is the single most difficult thing all organizations face, because I don't know how many times we've dealt with parking regulations at Potsdam since I've been on the council.
It's true. It's true. Okay, I'm hearing no questions or discussion. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is unanimously passed. Thank you very much, and thank you, Eric. And the second resolution now, I'm going to turn it over to Sal Kania. And Sal is going to tell us about another very positive resolution that we're being asked to vote on today. Sal?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, June. Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to present a resolution to name the Stephen Marchese Center for Archaeology and Anthropology at SUNY Potsdam. The resolution is on page 14. Steve is the former dean of the School of Arts and Sciences, of course. The Marchese Center will be housed at the NATCO building on Outer Main Street, where faculty and students will conduct archaeological and anthropological research in the center's museum, classroom, laboratory, and distance learning center. An adjacent 20 by 40 foot timber frame building will be constructed near NATCO to house a hearth and facility for traditional and heritage arts such as blacksmithing and weaving. The project will be funded through gifts from alumni and local donors.
Thank you. Sal, so in addition to that one building that you mentioned, is this going to be in existing space at NATCO, or is the whole thing being built?
I believe we are using space within the NATCO building as well, in addition
Okay.
to this this
Timber
other
frame, yeah.
timber frame building that's going to be constructed. Yeah, the frame building will include a hearth where we will be able to have blacksmiths in to do traditional arts, things along those lines. So activities that are more appropriately housed somewhere outside the NATCO building.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Sal? Everyone has a copy of the resolution in front of them. You may remember Steve, he was the Dean of Arts and Sciences. He would be at our council meetings faithfully. And he was a fixture on the campus. So I think that it's lovely and appropriate that this is named in his honor. So we have a copy of the resolution. Do we have a motion?
Got a motion.
Second,
Richard?
Second.
I got it first.
Okay, Alex. Um, don't bite. So is there discussion, questions? I already asked my question out of order, but. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I,
Okay, unanimously passed. Thank you. And I'm assuming that a copy of the resolution will be given to Steve? A
Yes,
framed
absolutely.
copy? Yeah, okay.
Yes, yep. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. All right, moving right along. Now we're going to hear from Eric again, which is a good thing. He's our interim dean of students. Steve, would you like to give us the updates on COVID-19?
Thanks again, June. Absolutely. I believe there's a couple of slides to go along with my comments and the subsequent presenters to provide some campus updates to the council. Perfect. Thank you, Diane Marie. That's terrific. So in terms of some campus updates, I'm going to lead our group off and talk a little bit about COVID as I did at our last meeting. June, I greatly appreciate your comments opening, thanking the campus community, especially our students, for their work on COVID. It really has been a tremendous effort across all sectors of the campus. Not only have our students been good stewards of the COVID Bear expectations, but they have also been tremendous in volunteering at our testing site in Maxey in the fall and in the student union. We truly could not have done the testing without the help of our student leaders stepping up and helping. We've also had a great response from our faculty and staff and other employees. We have several alumni that have been in regularly, some retirees that have been in regularly to help us. So there's a list on the screen here of some of the things that people have done to help us out. You may recall that we are testing every student who is living on campus, coming to campus, or living within 15 miles of campus. And that last piece is something that is particularly unique to Potsdam that very few, if any, other campuses have been doing. And that's important, and we feel a part of our mission to not only keep the campus safe, but keep the local community safe, in which many of our students are living, working, traveling in, et cetera. So again, I don't need to read through the screen, but it's been a tremendously overwhelming response of people volunteering their time in all kinds of different ways to help test and keep our campus safe. So greatly appreciative. Too many names to list here. If we can go on to the next slide, please, Diane, that would be great. As of yesterday, this is an update of our campus numbers in terms of positive student testing. If you've been keeping track of the dashboard off the main website, the last 3 weeks have been particularly challenging for the campus. We have seen a significant increase in students testing positive in particular. Our numbers last week were as high as, I think, 59 or 60 positive student cases that we were dealing. And those numbers are just our positive cases. If you then think about contact tracing, there were dozens of other students that ended up needing to quarantine as a result of coming in contact potentially with a close contact with somebody who has tested positive. The good news is we have seen some good impact on students who have been vaccinated, in some cases not needing to quarantine because they've been vaccinated already. So having the vaccination POD right here on campus has been great. About 2 weeks ago, we did an informal survey as students came into testing. About half of the students who were testing indicated that they had already received one or both vaccines. Another 25% indicated that they were interested, and the other 25% were either still thinking about it or were not interested at the time. So those are encouraging numbers that 75% of the students were either in process or interested. And that was just before they changed the requirements for people to be able to be tested over the age of 16. So that was great. We have about 43 students between on and off campus and quarantine right now, and you can see the positivity numbers. So what has been nice is testing from this past week from Monday and Tuesday. We believe we have most of the results back now, only resulted in 2 positive cases or 2 positive pools. So we are cautiously optimistic that the 3-week spike that we've seen the last couple weeks is subsiding, and we hope it will stay down that way. So Diane, if you can go on to my last slide, that would be great. Because of the spike that we had the last 3 weeks, we did re-implement campus restrictions that we started with at the beginning of the semester. All in-person academic related classes, labs, activities are still continuing, but we did transition our student activities back to a virtual format, and we did move away from in-person dining, so we did go back to grab and go dining. We just had an emergency resource response group meeting yesterday. And once we get all of the final testing results in, we are considering resuming in-person dining on Monday, but would continue to keep student activities in a virtual format for 1 more week until we get another test result back. And if we hopefully continue to see the declining trend in numbers, then we will revisit that next week. One of the things we've received this recently was some updated guidance from both the state and SUNY related to commencement. So we're pleased to talk about that. We are looking at some in-person small ceremonies for commencement on the 22nd of May. We have just put a survey out to our students to see who would be interested in participating in those small group ceremonies, again targeting graduation day, which was May 22nd. So we're in the process of getting that data back. I believe the due date is the 26th or the 27th back for students to respond. Based on the number of students that say they would like to participate in a small in-person ceremony, we will then figure out how many ceremonies we need to have and how we would group those students together for those ceremonies. So it's still a little bit of a work in progress. We are limited based on the fact we are going to do it inside to no more than a total of 100 people per ceremony. So that would include a small group of administrators that would be presiding over this ceremony, as well as the number of students. We are looking at creative ways for getting faculty, staff, and college council involved in that ceremony. Again, numbers are going to dictate that a little bit, but we're certainly open to ideas once we know, again, how many students want to participate and how many ceremonies we would need to have. We are looking to do that in Hosmer Hall. We are thinking that doing that inside would give us a number of advantages. We can have a little bit more control over attendance at events. It gives us a fixed location for video streaming, live streaming the event. It's easy because it's already set up so that we can clean in between ceremonies. Have a number of advantages with that location. Any of the council members that have ever either seen or been present for where we used to do the master's ceremony in Hosmer. It really is quite beautiful in there with the flags and the flowers, and we think will be a terrific location to be able to do, again, a small in-person ceremony. We are going to make a final decision by May 17th. Again, it will be subject to how our current positive cases and testing results are leading up to that, but we are cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to do something in person in small groups to celebrate the wonderful accomplishments of our graduates. Those who are not be able to attend in person will absolutely make sure that we read their names as part of the ceremonies. And that will be important because we do know some students have chosen to be virtual for this semester and may not have the ability to come back and participate in that ceremony. So we are excited about that opportunity to be able to do something in person, not just all virtual for commencement. We are already looking ahead towards the fall, especially as advisement has begun and students will be able to register for fall classes. We did get a document from SUNY this week that will help us in our planning for the fall. It is encouraging all of our students and employees to be vaccinated, but right now it's not mandatory. As I'm sure Alex can chime in and know, we all realize that the vaccine is approved only for emergency authorization use right now. So thus we're not able to mandate it. Once it is approved for regular use like the flu shot is, then that's certainly a discussion we'll have on campus and with SUNY about what we want to do for our students and our employees. And of course, with employees, we would need to go through collective bargaining discussions with all of the different unions. But we certainly are promoting and encouraging and even doing signups with our students as they come through testing. We are planning with academics to return as much in person as the greatest extent possible with our fall course operations. And certainly testing will be determined on future guidance and number of students that are vaccinated. But it is our sincere hope that the fall will look remarkably similar to previous fall semesters, well, not fall 2020, of course, but previous fall semesters as we look ahead with vaccines and our plans and returning to what we hope to be relatively normal operations. So I'm going to stop there and see, June, if it's okay if there's any questions on the COVID slides and comments I've made, because then we're going to switch gears and Dr. Ford's going to talk a little bit about Title IX.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Any questions?
Yes, June, I have one.
Okay.
Eric, on the statistics that you have relative to the positive cases that you found, has there been any severe illnesses from those cases, or have they been mostly mild cases?
Thanks for your question, Rich. What we have found this semester in particularly is that our students do seem to become more symptomatic than they were in the fall. So in the fall semester, we certainly had students who tested positive. For the most part, they were asymptomatic in testing positive. This semester in particular, we have seen a change in that our students who are testing positive seem to be experiencing more symptoms. Thankfully, they are younger, and while they are symptoms, they are not resulting in significant side effects, although I am aware of 2 students who did go to the hospital to be treated for their symptoms. So I don't know what that says about the current state of the virus or the variant. There's been lots of wondering about that. I'm not aware that County Public Health is actually testing for that, but it certainly seems like not only is it a little bit more contagious than it was in the fall, our students also are a lot more symptomatic than they were. And again, that's my own opinion and observation.
I think the other thing that you have to be concerned with now is the reports that most of these vaccines are going to require booster shots within 6 to 12 months. So everything you're going through now, we may be going through again close to Christmas time, trying to get everybody booster shots.
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. We believe that we'll still be doing some testing in the fall, including potentially those who have been vaccinated. As everybody know, none of the vaccines are 100% effective. And I know they're still trying to do research on whether or not somebody who has been vaccinated can transmit the virus to others. So I do believe that we will still be doing some testing on campus this fall. And then to your point, absolutely, a number of the manufacturers, including Pfizer, just recently have announced the likelihood of a 12-month booster. So that will be an important part of our campus safety plan for the fall.
Okay, that's it, and good luck on commencement.
Thank you, Rich.
More important for the students and their families to participate in a commencement. I would worry more about that than the rest of us having to attend. I think it's just more important for those ceremonies to be attended by family and staff, and good luck with it, though. It's not going to be not going to be an easy thing to do.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rich, and I appreciate your recognition of that. I should have mentioned, at this point, we are only doing this for students. We are not planning on allowing visitors and guests. We currently do have a campus policy that does not allow visitors and guests on campus.
Oh, okay.
And only having a maximum of 100 people per ceremony will really limit that. But the fact that we'll be able to live stream it over the internet, we hope will be meaningful to parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, significant others, guardians, et cetera, to be able to have the next best thing and at least see it virtually. But we at this point are not looking to entertain family members or guests at the ceremony, just students to celebrate amongst themselves.
Wow, that's fine. I didn't realize that, so I withdraw I still wish you good luck, but I withdraw some of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I see we've just been joined by Steve O'Shaughnessy.
Yes.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, welcome. Sorry I was late. My doctor and I were solving all of Messina's problems, and it took.
Well, that was time well spent then.
I did have a question for Eric, though. In your, from when I came on, it seems like all these plans and policies that you're putting into place seems comprehensive, and I'm not really sure how they compare with other colleges and universities, but I would imagine that you're going to use this to fold it in when you're attracting or looking for the freshman class in the fall. Is that going to be part of the program or the paperwork that they would get?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. We feel, in all areas of the campus, we want to make sure that our incoming students through the onboarding or orientation process are aware of campus expectations. So as we look ahead to the fall, there are some things that are sunsetting, like the chancellor's, SUNY's uniform sanctions. Those will conclude at the end of the spring semester. Whether or not we continue in the same form or some updated form of our campus COVID Bear Pledge, which are student expectations, we'll certainly make sure we review those over the summer, our testing protocols, but we want to make sure we're very clear with our incoming students and our returning students as to what campus expectations and what campus will be like in the fall. And certainly student government plays an important role in helping us get that information out to students as well.
Yeah, I think that could be used to attract students. I mean, it seems that well organized and as you pointed out, comprehensive. So hopefully you'll be able to convey that to anybody thinking about coming to Potsdam, that they'll be cared for in the best way possible.
Absolutely. And although it's not related to COVID, this falls into my area of supervision, but I'm really pleased that both Pacey's and Residence Life, through their budgeting process, have voted and approved that there will be no increase in meal plan prices next year. And the basic double room residence hall accommodation, which is where most of our new students live, also will not increase in the housing room rate for next year. And this is the second year in a row that both of those entities have kept those rates and costs with no increase, in recognition of the financial hardship that our students and their families have faced, especially as a result of COVID. And so that, I think, is also an important part when we talk about attracting new students to campus.
Yeah, that's got to be difficult in light of all the other financial restraints.
Absolutely.
Good work.
Thank
Any
you, Steve.
other questions for Eric? I just want to thank you, Eric, and thank you for being co-chair of the commencement with Nicole, I believe.
Yes.
And, everything's relative. So the fact that we're able to have 100 people, glad that you're not in the UK where they can only have 30 for Prince Philip's funeral. So I wouldn't want to be responsible for cutting that list.
Agreed.
Yep. So we'll just stay tuned and see what, if any, role we're going to have as council.
Yes,
But
that would be great. We'll definitely keep in touch, June.
and I'm sure we all agree that it's more important for as many students as possible to be there.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
yeah, if there aren't any other questions for me, the next part of the campus update, if I may, is to reintroduce Dr. Claudia Ford. She's going to take over and talk and give some updates about Title IX. So Dr. Ford, if you're ready, the Zoom is all yours.
Thank you so much, Eric. Good morning, Chair O'Neill. Good morning, council members and colleagues. I'm very happy to be here with you. You can go ahead and advance to the next slide. As President Esterberg said, it's been a tough couple of weeks on campus around this issue of sexual assault, sexual violence, Title IX issues. And so we really take student advocacy, expressions of their concern. We've been taking that very seriously. We want to hear from them. We want to help them to feel heard. And we especially want to see what is it that we can do about this issue. So we have all the mechanisms that have already been in place for students to provide feedback, but we've also been highlighting those and providing other opportunities. Our BERT system is another way that students are allowed to provide feedback about issues that may come up, whether it's with other students in the classroom. So we do continue to get reports through the BERT system. But mostly what we've been looking at right now are Title IX cases, those from the past, as well as those which are going on currently. We are bound by confidentiality in the details of the cases. And so we have to make that clear. It can be frustrating. And I understand the students' frustration. One of the things, especially if it's a reporting student or a victim of a Title IX violation, they want to know naturally, absolutely, what has happened. And there are some walls around that information that are put in place for legal reasons, for employment reasons, that prevent us from saying everything. So that's a frustration that we understand, and we continue to explain to the students. The other thing I want to say about frustration about Title IX is just how complicated Title IX legislation is. And we have the unique situation right now where we're actually operating under 3 different systems, the way I look at it. So we have Obama era guidance, and that guidance was in effect until August, which means that many of our past cases, some of which are still open, are being legislated or investigated under Obama era guidance. We now also have Trump administration guidance, which in August changed a lot of things about the process, especially from the point of view of the student who's reporting an incident. And then we have the Biden administration, which President Biden issued March 8th, I believe it was, an executive order. The executive order that Biden issued was for the purpose of taking a really good look at the Trump administration's legislation of Title IX. And that's going to involve probably this summer, I'm guessing, a comment period where we get public comments and written comments. So that gives us a pretty complex system in terms of understanding Title IX and explaining to students the different ways that a case may be investigated within those systems. We're doing our best. There's a lot of resources that we can point students to, and we do, and we're really doing our best to explain it to the extent that we understand it. You really do need to be a specialist to know all of the details. So we're looking forward to having a Title IX coordinator whose job it is to stay on top of these complex shifts and changes. In the meantime, we're doing many of the things remain the same in terms of the steps we take if a case is reported, in terms of alternative assignments, and in terms of academic work, in terms of no contact orders, orders of protection, and especially in terms of the supportive resources that are available to students. One thing people may be interested to know is that a student who reports has access to free legal advice that some of the organizations, national organizations that have been set up to support Title IX within higher education have also set up systems that allow reporting students and faculty and staff to get advice about their case for free. So we're just making sure that everybody on campus knows there are resources available and who on campus they can approach to get a hold of, to get into those resources. The Clary Act is another slightly complex system in that not all students, staff, and faculty realize that we are required by federal law to notify, but we're only required to notify certain types of cases, and that's where some of the complexity comes in. So we had a notification, many of you may know that, this week, and what was a bit confusing was why did we notify this one and not others? The Clary Act is about notification of a current danger. In other words, we need to let our campus community know if there's something that they need to be vigilant about. It does not apply only to sexual assault and Title IX violations. So that's another part of it that may be sometimes confusing. So at the time that we reported this particular incident, it was because we still had a lot of questions about the perpetrator, about the situation. We needed to let the campus know. And the federal law is very clear, not only that we have to notify the campus of any event that's going on that presents a present challenge to the campus, but also the timing of that. And we need to do that in a timely manner. I think I'll take the next slide. Thank you. So in order to respond to all of this and to show our responsiveness, we set up a task force. The task force is the response of faculty, staff, and the administration to really look at the feedback that the students have given us over the last week. We have, within that task force, we've set up subcommittees just to kind of divide up the work. And you see here is around student support, around investigations. And again, let me say this investigations is about the process, not about individual cases, about networking with outside resources, and about training, because we really do realize that what we're going for is prevention of these Title IX cases. And so that requires quite a bit of continual professional development, if we're talking about faculty or staff, training for students about a culture of respect, bystander intervention. So there's quite a bit of work there. And what we've done is to task or to ask each of these subcommittees to be very clear about what it is we'd like to accomplish. Give us a timeline. Is that going to be accomplished in the spring semester, in the summer, next fall? Because the students have asked for that and we want to be very clear. Also, how will students be involved in the work of that subcommittee? In some of our subcommittees, we want student members on the committee because we want them involved in all parts of the deliberations. There are others where we will ask for student advisory committees. So we want each of the specific tasks to be very clear. Students, for example, have asked to be part of the training teams, which of course makes a lot of sense in some of these cases. So we're looking at that. the final thing that the subcommittees are doing are letting us know what resources are needed, what is not in the room, who is not in the room, what do we need in terms of resources of information, of people. A lot of that is around further education, around Title IX. And here what I'll say is that we're very lucky. SUNY as a system is, I would say, definitely ahead of the curve in many cases, and certainly enacting best practice around Title IX and the issues that are under Title IX. We have access to a lot of resources from SUNY, and they're good resources. So we're really pleased about that, and just really trying to get a better sense of what we do have access to, and make sure that our campus is connected to that. I will end then with these other things we've already spoken about: a national search for a full-time Title IX coordinator. We have a committee that Nicole is chairing, and that work is already beginning. We got back on track because we already had this on our agenda, and realized that the pandemic and all of the pressures on the facilities had meant that this fell a little bit down from the priority list. We put it back at the very top of the priority list, and that is installation of windows in Crane School of Music. Thank you to Dean Woods for saying, yes, let's do this, it's doable, and let's make sure our students know that this happens immediately. So that's underway. We have my division and the counseling center hosted a student support session that was successful in the sense that the students felt supported and heard, and that's what we wanted. We may do that again. We thought that that went very well. We have an ongoing partnership with Renewal House, and we are looking at how we can strengthen that. One of the things we'd like to do is advocate during the comment period at the national level, where they'll be talking about the new Title IX. We'd like to help students plug into that advocacy. And Renewal House would be a good place for us to do that. And then, as I said, just knowing what the resources are and making sure that everyone has access to them. I think that is my last slide. Is there another slide? Sorry. No, yeah. Transition to budget. So before we go to budget, I would like to please take questions, June, if anyone has.
Questions, comments?
I have one.
Go ahead.
When an incident is reported on campus, isn't it true that the alleged victim is in the driver's seat, and meaning that they decide, or they have the ultimate decision as to how far the investigation goes, or whether or not it's just campus police, or if village police or state police become involved? Isn't it the alleged victim that does have the control in how that goes with the guidance of the free legal or by people on campus? But isn't that the case?
Yes, Jeff, that is the case. And while some of the details of that shifted in terms of what the alleged victim could do or say between Obama regulations and Trump regulations, there were slight differences, but yes, it's still driven by the choices and the desires of the reporting person.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people get confused as to why something else isn't happening, and really it's the person reporting the incident that has ultimate control in how far they want to take it. Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Other questions or comments? I have one. So when you were talking about the changing Title IX, that there's the Obama rules and the Trump rules, and now we're looking to revise again. If something happened and was reported, let's say under the Obama rules, these things can take a long time. And so when it eventually, moves forward, is it still under the Obama rules?
That's a great question. Thank you, June. And yes, to my knowledge, whatever the regulations are at the time of the first report, I think the only place that may get tricky is as the case rolls up and if, say, for example, there were sanctions and the extent of that, I don't know how much the responding person can challenge any of that based on new rules. And I do remember some talk about controversy about that, but the basic, as I understand it, basically whatever was in force when you reported the case is how you then adjudicate the case going forward. Yeah, that's my understanding.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any more complex.
I will say, there aren't huge differences, so I don't want to present it as if, they're completely different laws, but there are specific differences in how much it's driven by the victim, what can be put in as evidence, how the evidence is judged, what are the standards. And so Title IX, it does not usually rise to the legal standards of, say, a court case. And some of that shifted significantly enough that, as you know, these are very complex cases, so that when you get to the adjudication of the case, if evidence rules shifted, you can have a very different picture in it's not a courtroom, but in that hearing room. So.
Thank you. Other questions? Hearing none, thank you, Dr. Ford. We appreciate
Thank you.
it.
And I will now pass on to Keith to lead us through this section on the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ford. So I just want to thank everybody and particularly thank everybody for the kind words in the chat. It's really truly been a pleasure to serve this campus, and I'll be here for another couple of months helping out with the transition. So I do want to express my gratitude to everyone and to the council. If we could flip the slide. Obviously, finances for SUNY Potsdam have been a fraught subject for a few years. The pandemic really brought a lot of things into relief, and so our already present financial challenges became even more of a challenge because of the uncertainty that the state and the state university were operating in, we were, as we discussed in the last meeting, the prospect and now the reality of federal funding to states and localities has greatly eased some of the uncertainty at the state budgetary level, and has enabled some of the funding that had been set very conservatively and appropriately at the state level, at the state university level. For some programs, they were funded at 25%, at least in terms of the budgetary spending authority. Other lines were, we were authorized to, or we were told that there would be cuts of 25%, so funding at 75%. And other things we were told as things progressed, we'd be seeing cuts of 5%. So lots of uncertainty that became resolved. I'm not going to go through the fullness of the state budget, except as it relates to SUNY and to SUNY Potsdam. But the budget was a little bit delayed, but the budget that was enacted was a good budget for SUNY, as I see it, and I think most people do, and a good budget for SUNY Potsdam. Among the key things you may have already heard about included the fact that tuition was frozen for 3 years. And you may have heard about the multi-year closure plan for the TAP gap. For this coming year, the maximum TAP award was lifted by $500. So the TAP gap, which approximately at maximum could be about $2,000, that's about a quarter of that gap that goes away with the lifting of the maximum award, and it's the tap gap is planned to be on a path to ultimate hopeful closure over a 3 to 4 year period. And let's just keep our fingers crossed that that continues on that path. But at least for this year, we have some relief for the upcoming year. And another thing that's incredibly germane to us as a campus is that funding has been kept stable. And one point that that President Esterberg makes frequently and correctly is that keeping funding stable is in effect a cut because of the fact that costs increase. We have collective bargaining increases, and we have other cost increases that hit our campus, and we are responsible for covering those. So when funding stays the same, it's really going down. But the fact is, we had the prospect of reductions. And in fiscal year 2020, the fiscal year that ended in June 30th of 2020, we had gotten a reduction of $1.6 million that was ultimately restored. We had gotten a reduction for fiscal year 2021 of 5%, which has been sustained. It is a reduction. That's about a $544,000 decrease. But then for the 21-22 year, we have the full amount of funding, which for Potsdam is about $10.9 million. And that is a great relief that was resolved in that manner. We also have seen that the EOP program and also construction funding was increased at the state level, and those are really good things for SUNY. EOP in particular is very good for Potsdam. So we're very pleased in general on balance. There are some things in the budget that we wish were done perhaps a little bit more to SUNY's benefit, but we have to look at the whole thing and say it was a positive budget in totality. And so the other thing that looms for us in a positive way is the federal funding that has happened in 3 pieces over the last year or so. There was a CARES Act that everybody's heard about. We received funding under that. That's already done. That's past. That's past history. But there was also a stimulus bill that was passed in December and another stimulus bill that was passed last month. So the total of those 3 bills, each of them had relief that was targeted to institutions of higher education. And the net benefit was $10.5 million or so to students for grants to students, and $13.5 million or so for institutional funds for SUNY Potsdam. And people might think, what are institutional funds and what can we do with them? Can we just take these institutional funds and just pocket them and just say our deficits are now gone? And the fact is, there are some restrictions and there is some guidance that we have received both from the Federal Department of Education and from the New York State. And there's my office mate in the background you may be hearing, adding some commentary. Those are barks of approval for institutional funding, because overall, the funding, first of all, will be used and must be used to help us reimburse ourselves for refunds that we gave to students when we sent them home in the spring of 2020. There was room, there was board, and there was fees. Meals are a little bit complicated, and there's going to be an unfolding discussion with how exactly we can use that, but we can definitely reuse the money to offset room rents as well as fees. And then the next round of relief that we give ourselves really is to pay ourselves back for testing and PPE expenses that we have incurred, incremental expenses that have occurred. And again, my apologies. My office mate was quiet the entire time of this meeting until just now. The other primary use for this is going to be what's called lost revenues. And those lost revenues stem from two main causes. One is fewer students in dorms, and the other is just fewer students in general and having enrolled. So we are going through with system admin on computing exactly what that is, what those lost revenues are, and this basically will meet many of the campus's needs from the from all of the disruptions that took place to our operations from COVID-19. So we're incredibly grateful getting these funds, these institutional funds, because they will help us get back to the business of serving our students. This is a very good thing for us. Other budgetary, so actually, before I move on to other things, are there any questions on that?
I just have a comment. I understand the need to freeze the tuition because of what we've been going through. But we've been through this before, and it took years to get a rational tuition plan in place to have gradual increases in tuition. And we have to be aware and be prepared to lobby for that again, rather than coming back in 3 years and having a 6 or 10% increase in tuition, which is very difficult for many of the students to swallow. So it took many years to June, as we know, to get the legislature to agree to small incremental increases, which are much easier to take rather than waiting for 3 or 4 or 5 years and then hitting everybody with a big increase to make up the difference.
Most definitely. Any other questions? Okay. So just in terms of more immediate financial matters, we because of the very conservative, very prudent and correct precautions that were taken at the beginning of the year at the system administration level to limit the amount of spending authority across the system, we have run into a spending authority shortage because we still are being governed under the early in the pandemic amount of spending authority that system admin had set forth. Now that the budget has passed, now that the federal aid to states and localities have happened or have, all those things have been settled, we fully expect, hopefully by next week, to get spending authority levels lifted. And we'll be able to go back. But we have placed the campus on a pause for spending. We were expecting to go off of that this week, but because of the delay of the budget by a week, it has kind of delayed our removing the pause. And frankly, the allocations or spending authority have not been lifted yet, so it wouldn't be appropriate yet to take us off of pause. But we do expect to be able to do that soon. It still means that we have to operate incredibly prudently. Our budget has been set at a very prudent level, and we've been able to get our business done in the meantime. However, it has been a very challenging year, to say the least, in terms of finances. And that kind of brings me just to the president did review the regional financial services collaboration as well. So that is going to come with it. We're going to be able to, in our area, in the business affairs area, we're going to be able to do some, make some improvements, some process improvements that I think are going to be beneficial to the campus and beneficial to services that we'll be able to provide to the campus community. So with that, any questions?
Questions for Keith? I have one, Keith. There's always chatter about everything. The spending authority that you were talking about, the cap on it, is that something that is unique to our campus, or is it a system-wide issue?
It is a system-wide issue in terms of the rules apply system-wide. However, our financial plan is set by a combination of our tuition plus our state aid. And our tuition receipts are lower than in past years because our enrollment has been lower than in past years. So the enrollment decreases create a greater, they impinge on our financial plan to a greater degree than other institutions that haven't had those same challenges in the past. However, we have noted, just observing, a lot of other campuses are now seeing the enrollment issues that we have been seeing, and it's going to be a more universal experience for them.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? Not? Thank you very much, Keith. All right, next on the agenda, we're going to move to reports. And our president-elect of the SGA, Nick Hausman, is stepping in today for Kara, and he will give the SGA report. So again, welcome, Nick.
Hi, welcome everybody. It's nice to see you all. So this semester, we were able to combine both the Student Senate and the Student Assembly into one house. The Student Senate used to be all the clubs, and the Assembly used to be all just single representatives. But we felt, due to attendance purposes, it'd be better to combine those, and we will see a revision of our founding documents on Wednesday in Senate to be approved on for all of these changes. We have also passed the student activity fee, and with that, we have passed our SGA budget for next year. And most importantly, we have been working with students through these difficult times to try to advocate for them and do what we can. The next e-board is going to be myself as president, Willow Frizzle as vice president, Andrew Lawton as comptroller, Taylor Briggs as treasurer, and Zion Taylor as secretary. We are meeting for the first time this afternoon to go over plans for how we would like to proceed as an e-board, and also how we can help students through these times, and more specifically, what can we do as SGA to help students. We specifically want to look at things like bystander intervention programs and more feasible things that we can do for students to promote each other safely. And leave the hard legislation stuff to the professionals. So we are very much eager to begin. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, or you can ask them and I can answer them here as well.
Thank you, Nick. Questions for Nick? Thank you, and thank Kara for us. Moving right along, Blair Medore, who is the chair of the Faculty Senate, is going to give his report.
Good morning, June, and good morning to all the members of the College Council and everyone here on the Zoom. I was advised that we're on a very tight schedule today, so I will just quickly say that like other people have mentioned today, the faculty are really struggling with the many challenges we're facing at the moment. The backdrop of the pandemic, of teaching online, but in particular, the recent allegations of sexual assault and violence. But I want to put this in a bigger context. As the faculty have discussed, this is not just those issues. There's the ongoing issues of the conduct of our own university police. There's the ongoing issues of racism, sexism, ableism. And, for the faculty, we see all this as a big package of issues that all need to be addressed. But with that, I'll stop and take any questions.
Thanks, Blair. Are there questions for Blair? Not. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. Next is Provost Betty Bergeron.
Thank you very much. And hello to all the council members. It's wonderful to see you. Even through Zoom, looking forward to the time when we can get back together face to face and celebrate things like officially welcoming Nick into the council. So certainly we're all looking forward to that. I simply wanted to acknowledge my colleagues for the tremendous work dealing with the issues of this past week and a half. Across campus, and also obviously through Dr. Ford and her office. So thank you very much. And also acknowledge everybody's work in terms of the pandemic itself and the COVID response. A lot of things certainly have been going on campus, which all obviously impact academic affairs and the academic life of our students. And I just wanted to publicly acknowledge how proud I am of the campus, of my colleagues in academic affairs, my leadership team, the deans who are on this call, but certainly across campus in student affairs, DEI, all of the offices involved, HR, et cetera. So with that, I would certainly welcome any questions that anyone would have.
Okay, questions? All right, thank you very much. And next up is Keith Kaplan, who we've heard from before, but always welcome him to give us the scoop.
I have nothing to add to my report, unless there's any questions.
Questions for Keith? All right. So you'll be around for a couple of months doing the, I don't want to say transition because it's not moving from one to the other, but the new pilot program.
Yes. So
Okay.
I'll help in any way I can.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Keith.
Sure.
Okay, Melissa Frew.
Good morning.
Hi.
So I wanted to highlight an organizational change from my report. Andy Martin, our previous AVP for facilities, has separated from SUNY Potsdam. So we reorged to an administrative division, you could say, where HR, environmental health and safety, and physical plant report to one assistant vice president, which is myself. So Patrick O'Brien is still our director of environmental health and safety. Dave Fullerton is now our director of physical plant, and Carl Betts and Roy Smith are taking the lead on facilities. And then Jennifer Murray in HR is now our director of HR operations, but I am still the HR department lead. Thank you. I can take any questions.
What are you doing in your spare time? You're going to need a business card that says "see over."
Yeah.
Are there any questions for Melissa? And thank you, because I know this has been something that we hope to never repeat.
Agree. Very much agree.
All right. So thanks to you and your staff. Okay, moving next to Sal Kania. Who's going to tell us about the good things that are happening there.
Yes, always good things happening in advancement. Thank you, June. Hello again, everyone. Chair O'Neill mentioned earlier the local festival. The dates for that are April 29 through May 9. In addition, I'll just highlight a couple of points from our operation. We've reached $2.4 million towards our $2.8 million goal this year, with 3 months left in the fiscal year. As part of that, our annual giving office has capitalized on resegmenting our alumni solicitations. The result so far this year is a dramatic 32% increase in annual giving. So my thanks to our folks in the annual giving office. They've done just a super job this year. Our alumni office has ramped up its help with student recruitment, with alumni helping to identify prospective students, and then alumni calling accepted students who have not yet deposited. And finally, reunion will be virtual again this year with a broader array of programming. Reunion is set for July 6th through 10. So happy to help with any questions.
Questions for Sal? Keep up the good work. You and your staff are always right on top of things. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ron Brown.
Thank you, June, and good morning, council members. Thank you for your best wishes, June, and the council. I'd like to say that it's been an honor and a pleasure serving the college for almost 2 years as your enrollment management interim. I'm very confident that Pat Quinn is going to serve you extremely well. So I think, positive things are coming. For my report today, I'd simply refer to the written report. Would like for you to remember that three things basically. One is that we have been cutting the deficit in applications since the last meeting quite well, actually. At the last meeting, we were missing 389 regular freshman applications, and now we're missing 119. We've cut that by 69.4%. Our applications to active deposit yields are still running ahead of last year for both freshmen and transfers. That is also a very positive thing. And our freshman overall applications, that's our regular applications and our EOP applications, have improved, 11.39%, since I wrote the report. 90%, basically 90.54% of all of our freshman applications are applications requesting EOP. So, the fact that we're only missing 119 regular applications is a positive point. Be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Congratulations on continuing to narrow the gap.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ron, what would you attribute that to? Is anything specific or?
I attribute it to the hard work of the admissions team, the hard work of marketing communications, contributions from our faculty, which have been very helpful. I think the fact that we have been pushing the idea that we're going to have face-to-face instruction in our telephone conversations and our text messaging to prospective students and applicants, has resonated some with them. I think that has been helpful.
I'm sure. Well, keep up the good work.
Thank you. I'll be on board until the end of May.
Good.
Any other questions or comments for Ron? All right, thank you very much. And again, our best wishes in whatever happens next.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Okay, Eric, Student Affairs Report, anything?
Thank you again, June. I guess for the third time, I think the council's probably heard enough from me today. Most of my professional life revolves around testing and the COVID things I've already presented. I do have some short updates on the other areas that I oversee that are in your notes for today's meeting, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? And we'll allow Eric to give his voice a rest.
Thank you.
Okay. And last but certainly not least, Claudia Ford, who is our interim Chief Diversity Officer.
Thank you, Chair O'Neill. I do have a couple of quick things to say. First of all, this is going to be my last council meeting. In the fall, I will be transitioning to being back in the classroom as a professor and also as the department chair for environmental studies. So if I see you once we get out and about in Potsdam and I don't recognize you because I've only known you from being on this screen, please forgive me. We will have to reintroduce ourselves when we meet in person, but thank you very much. We had our 10th Days of Reflection this week. As you know, Days of Reflection is the most well-attended event on our campus, and this one did not disappoint, so we're happy about that. The Center for Diversity is preparing for welcoming students in the fall, so we're excited about some of the things that we're doing there. This summer, we will have all incoming students going through our first year Connect program, and we continue to be out front nationwide on that program. So we are now the only pilot college working with CELIA and Search for Common Ground. And we're beginning to get results from that. It's very exciting. So stay tuned. You'll be hearing more about that. And then we are welcoming an additional Prodigy Fellow, which is a postdoc a person into Prodigy, just to remind you, is for women in the sciences, women in STEM, and for underrepresented faculty in all disciplines. And this is a Black American woman in anthropology, I believe. And so we're really excited as we continue to add to the SUNY-wide Prodigy program. It's just, we're really happy to be able to make use of that. So those were my quick updates, and thank you so much.
Questions, comments? Well, we will miss you at our meetings, but hopefully we'll see you on campus, and depending on whether we're wearing masks or not, we may or may not recognize each other. But thank you for stepping in and doing some great work while we were between directors. And the students, I'm sure, will be delighted to have you back in the classroom.
Thank you.
So we'll say so long, but not goodbye. All right. Thank you very much. Is there any old business? And no old jokes, okay? I mean, no age jokes. Is there any old business to come before the council? Hearing none. Any new business? Hearing none. Do we have a date set for our first meeting of the fall yet? Hearing none. No, not yet. All right. So we will let you know as soon as that has been decided. And please pay attention to your emails. And I hope that you all check your SUNY Potsdam email from time to time, because there are things that show up there that don't necessarily come to your private email as council business, like the weekly what's going on campus. And you can always just go to the website and click on the calendar and see what's going on. And since most of it is virtual at the moment, you don't have to get out of your house and, change your clothes. So it's never been easier to take more active part in the campus than it is right now. So please take advantage of that. In the meantime, if you haven't got all your vaccinations yet, please do. If you know people who haven't, please tell them that we have open appointments at SUNY Potsdam, and encourage everybody to get fully vaccinated, because it's the best chance we have to be the best protected that we can be at the moment. So having said that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll leave that up to Harold.
I move we adjourn.
There you go.
Is there a second?
Yeah. Second.
Okay. All right, the motion.
We make a good team.
Seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Thank you all. Be well. Stay
Thank you.
Stay tuned.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye now.